Episode 8 of Murder Drones concludes the complete plot/story of the series. However, in the last few moments, we get some fun animations in the credits that give us an indication of what happens to our characters next and what their lives will be like from here. So let's break it all down and talk about where the characters came from and how they ended up where they are. My name is DroneCut, and vote down below if I should kill off my ImpSona in the final video we do on Murder Drone since the show is over. Don't worry, he could always appear patched up in the next video if we decide to make more. Now, instead of sequentially going through the end credit sequence and explaining each character's ending like that, I'd like to do it by character, starting of course with Uzi N. Uzi N started the story as very separate characters, ones who were on opposing sides, living on different sides of a 3-door system that separated them from each other and each other's worlds. N was the disassembly drone sent to kill Uzi and her people, and Uzi was not just one of those worker drones that N was supposed to kill, but the one who was happy and willing to go out and do battle with the disassembly drones to murder them back. I had said early on that it was obvious that these two were an endgame couple, but a lot of people actually really disagreed with me on this, saying it was a stupid idea and that the two of them should just remain friends. I never understood why there was so much hostility to the obvious pairing of these main characters, but people kept insisting on this even after they went to the prom together and snuggled on the bus. The series is very much about the integration of these two different types of drones, and in episode 8, fans got a dramatic scene of the two falling to Copper 9 through the atmosphere, bursting into flames, while acknowledging that they do love each other and are together. After eating the essence of sin so that Uzi can keep her under control, the two finally get to live out their relationship in the bunker on Copper 9. Of course, unlike before, the characters aren't limited to the bunker, since the only reason they were locked inside of it to begin with was to hide from N, V, and J. But with them no longer being a threat, the bunker just becomes the home when not exploring the outside world. In the final scene, we see that N and V are able to sit along with the rest of Uzi's class now, where N seems to spend most of his time learning how to draw manga. We also see later that Uzi and N are still doing cutesy couple things, such as watching anime together in Uzi's room, though for some reason her eyes seem to be just purple and not yellow. Later, we see them going to prom together again, and though they look mad at what's going on in this scene, they probably had a great rest of the night, as later shots show them dancing in front of the ring planet with their wings, which is probably my favorite shot in the entire show. And not just because of them, but because of V and Lizzy. N is not alone in joining the worker drone camp, as I said, and sitting in the back of class with him is V, though V is spending a lot more time with Lizzy these days, it would seem. Lizzy was of course friends with Doll before this, and don't worry, we'll get to her too, but with Doll seemingly dead, V and Lizzy have become really close. V had already bonded with Lizzy earlier in the series, such as in the prom episode, where she used her to get into the school, but Lizzy seems to actually like V. And somehow across the season, V seems to have come to like Lizzy too, like a lot. Like, I think they might be lesbots. But maybe they're just friends, it's hard to say. Either way, they become the new Queen Bee Mean Girl duo, and we see them hanging out in the end credit sequence as well. They are seen with the others at prom, but with Khan between them, so maybe Lizzy ended up on a date with him. More interestingly, they are seen in a group shot playing chess in front of the ringed planet in the sky that Uzi and N are dancing in front of. This, as I said before, is probably my favorite shot, and these two in the front make it even better, especially with V's sentinel there that she tamed being right there as well. What I love is that Lizzy isn't actually playing chess, but rather V is losing to her own sentinel and Lizzy is just on her phone, which is just the best example of two people just being together and enjoying each other's company, even if not doing some activity together. It really makes these 4 or 5 of them with the sentinel seem like the best weird extended friend group in this new world. Also in the end credit is Uzi's parents, Khan and Nori. Khan and Nori crossed paths in the finale, but Khan didn't recognize Nori as her core, and Nori simply had an Uzi-style stuttering meltdown and ran away. In the end credits, however, we get a shot where Uzi and N are playing cards with Khan and the other doormen. This is a bit awkward because N killed some of them back in episode 1, but it's meant to show how everyone really has come together now that the conflict is over. In this shot, Khan is hanging out with Nori, still in her core form, just hanging out on his head, and I imagine they develop something of a relationship again. One thing I found extra interesting was that Jay appeared in these credits and seems to be on her own journey. She isn't seen hanging with the others or inside the bunker, but instead, she's fixing the spaceship, indicating that instead of wanting to integrate with the drone society, she just wanted to go out into space and be on her own. She had insisted that it would be better if they were on the side of Sin, thinking that whatever Sin had in store for them was inevitable, and any betrayal to her would just lead to their own doom and demise. However, in a world where Sin is controlled, Jay is no longer a threat either. She doesn't seem to want to go after Uzi for revenge, as she was really only working for the Solver because she really did think it was the only option that she had. Instead, she's accepted that she was wrong, but as an immortal being, she has to figure out what she's going to do next, away from everyone else. This means leaving Copper 9 and going out into a universe where there isn't anyone waiting for her, which could be a very lonely eternity, but it's the only other option besides just living next to all these people who spared your life after you tried to annihilate them all. It's a very bittersweet ending for her, but it's still not as bitter as Doll's ending, which has nothing really sweet about it. Doll is a tragic character, and I don't mean that as a descriptor, but rather as more of an archetypal label. She is someone who was meant to have a sad life, with many of these characters being tragic for the sake of tragedy. It's an important reminder in any story that not everything works out in the end, and with Doll in particular, it's a reminder of what Uzi is, as she is everything that Doll is not. Uzi and Doll have identical backstories, but they each have their own unique identity that shaped how they responded to it. Uzi and Doll would both do horrible things, but Uzi wanted to resist the dark temptations to eat other robots, while Doll seemed to revel in it. The death of Doll with no return is a reminder of what Uzi would have been if she didn't have the little things that make her unique, the parts of her that wanted to make peace with N and the disassembly drones and work together, instead of against each other. It is because of this desire to be better and to make a better world that Uzi is the one who doesn't just get to live, but to integrate with the power of Sin's absolute solver, to become this version of herself that is able to keep the darkest parts of the universe in balance with her. Despite her seeming final death and her head being seen just laying alone in a quick shot before the credits themselves also show a shadowy figure, which some people to be Doll reforming herself. The figure has long hair like Doll, a very rounded top where we might be seeing her hat, and then Doll's red-colored eyes, though there's no guarantee that this is actually her. Following this, we see a shot of the gang at prom, and the reason N and Uzi weren't smiling is because it's supposed to be a presentation honoring those who did not survive this apocalyptic event, with Doll in particular being a notable loss. We also see characters carrying a head around, which I believe to be the head of Doll, as it's seen sitting around with Lizzy and V in class, or sitting with Uzi and N while watching their anime together, though I can't exactly tell if it's her, it just looks like it is with that hat. Finally, there are hints in this ending, in addition to this shadowy figure, that everything is not as it seems with this happy ending. We see some interesting shots of these centipede-looking monstrosities, and in the post-credit scene, Uzi seems to have some weird visions of the absolute solver inside of her in this fractured mirror. To many, this implies that she has a fractured state from merging with the absolute solver, and that would lead to just the perfect little crack on an otherwise smooth ending for our characters, indicating that something isn't quite right. But for more information on that, check out the video we put out yesterday on whether or not Uzi is just a hologram, and that what she sees in this mirror is actually just the hologram projectors. If you've already seen that, consider checking out the video we did on Serial Experiments Lane. This was a wild 13-episode anime series that had a lot of lore that is actually quite similar to Murder Drones with its sci-fi technology. Link in the pinned comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time.